Well, when interest rates were low, we had the conversation quite a bit about, is it worth just waiting, not paying off the house as quickly as possible because you're getting such a good price in terms of interest rates? But now that the numbers creep back up, does it make sense now to pay off your home as quickly as possible? We're going to run that by Bill Litton at Cross Country Mortgage next. Well, glad to have you on the Smart Mortgage Show. I am Ben George with Bill Litton, Regional President at Cross Country Mortgage. You can find him there in Chadds Ford, Pennsylvania, and online at smartmortgageshow.com. Bill, today I want to talk about rates. Rates are still kind of hanging around, what, 7.5%, 8%? Is that still where we are currently as of recording?
Yeah, I would say like 7 to 7.5, somewhere in there.
Okay, so close to 7. Okay. Well, the question is then, is it worth paying off your house quickly, or should you just continue to pay the payment every month? Because while the discussion a couple of years ago, when rates got down into the 2s and 3s and everybody was locking in those low rates, the idea was, hey, there's no reason now to pay it off, right? I mean, there's a lot of people we talked about, it's kind of stuck in their home now because they like having these mortgage payments and paying such little interest.
Yeah, I think that, either way, right, if you're going to pay your mortgage down more quickly, you're making an investment into your home. You're putting more money into the account called equity, and you're reducing the amount of interest that you pay. And then alternatively, if you don't pay it down, let's just pretend in these scenarios you have a certain amount of discretionary, disposable cash after you've paid all your bills that you want to do something investment-wise with. Because if you just go out and buy a boat and sink your money into that, certainly that's fun, but that's not an investment, right? So we're talking about, on one hand, pay the mortgage down? On the other hand, do I put it in an investment account? And when the rates were 3%, it was an easier conversation because it was basically, if you put your money into an S&P fund, it's just a mutual fund or an ETF that tracks the S&P, right? It's got not exactly all the holdings, but it's got a smattering of the S&P holdings. So it kind of tracks almost very closely with the S&P. It wouldn't be ridiculous to think you could get an 8% return on that, okay? So then if you're making 8% on a relatively conservative, safe investment, then why would you take that money and pay off a 3% mortgage? You'd be better off putting the money in the market, right? So that conversation was an easier one, but now that we're at a 7% rate, I feel like the conversation's just a little bit more difficult. I still think we get to the same place. So, and this is, Dave Ramsey is a financial advisor of sorts, and he says, take out a 15-year loan and pay it off as quickly as you can. And, that's decent advice because you're paying things, you're making an investment. And as long as you're making an investment, I think it's great. But what I have always thought is I'm a fan of a 30-year mortgage, first of all, because I like the flexibility of cash flow. And I would not do a 15-year mortgage almost at all, but I definitely wouldn't do it if I couldn't fund my 401k and make the mortgage payment, because your 401k is you're investing pre-tax. When you take it out, your tax rate, hopefully you're retired, is super low, right? So you have invested pre-tax, you take it out at a super low tax bracket, and the company is typically matching and giving you free money. So are we paying down the mortgage in lieu of funding our 401k? Probably not, right? We want to fund the 401k. I like the 30-year over the 15. 15-year has a slightly lower rate, but not dramatic, 0.5%, not dramatic. You can always pay the 30-year like the 15 and get to almost the same place at the same time. But going back to, we have extra disposable income that we could either pay down the loan or we could invest. So me personally, I'm always paying a little bit extra on my mortgage because I know there's a guaranteed savings there, and I want to guarantee myself that savings, so I'm being diversified. But I'm also putting money into the S&P fund because, if you look at an amortization schedule right now, if you borrow, say, $400,000 over the next 30 years, that $400,000 would cost you $800,000. It's going to be double. So paying the loan off more quickly certainly saves you a lot of money. But if you took the $400 and you put it into an S&P fund using the rule of 72, which means it's going to double every roughly 10 years, then in 30 years you'd have $1.2 million. So the way that money compounds in the market outpaces the reduction in interest in paying extra on your mortgage. So this is the kind of stuff that we like to talk to our clients about and kind of understand, like, what's your financial goal, you know? And Ben, we have people that their only goal is to pay off the loan, and that's the only way they see it. And if that is, we support that. But we want to open their minds a little bit to other opportunities. And I can't tell you how many times people have said, wow, I never thought about it that way. And we land on a 30-year, and now they're funding their investments, and they feel like that's the right plan.
Yes, it's something you definitely need to have a conversation about, and I know you do. And we've talked about that process too, because you want to see the complete picture. It's not just about, okay, you want a home, all right, here's your interest rates. Let's pick one out and go with it. It's about fitting into the overall picture, because to your point, I mean, you might have children going to college soon. You might have to buy a car soon. You need the money, and although you might be saving money long term, it's still locked up in a home. And unless you, again, pull more money out of that home against the value of the house, you're going to have to still pay off that interest at some point anyway. So all these things have to be factored into that overall decision, right?
Ben, I had a customer yesterday who was convinced. The owner of their company was saying 15 years. They were saying 15 years. And I said, I just want to, whatever you want to do in the end, we're going to do. But here's a thought. Take the 30-year, pay extra. So we'll tell you what it would take to pay it off in 15 years. This guy's financially disciplined. So if he wants to do it, I know that he will commit to doing it. I said, but if you ever wanted to shift gears and direct money to the market, or you had some other expense come up, and he goes, we're going to be flying back to Spain to see my family, and it's me, my wife, and my kids. It's going to be expensive. I said, right there, if you wanted to, you could reduce the extra payments that you're paying extra on the 30-year for a couple of months to build up the cash flow to finance that trip, and then go back to paying it down. So it offers a lot of flexibility. And after 5 minutes on the subject, he said, I'm definitely going with a 30-year loan. So
I love it. And that's a good point. And again, you might be best suited to get a 15-year or to pay off your mortgage quickly. And Bill, I guess back to the original question and discussion, does it matter kind of where you are in that loan? Let's say you are getting close to retirement, you're 5 years away, and now a lot of that payment is going towards your principal. Does that change anything? Does that make your answer any different? Hey, I want to get this done before retirement. Does that come up at all?
Yeah, I think a lot of people talk about wanting to, hey, I'm 50 years old. If I do a 30-year loan, I'm going to have it until I'm 80. Chances are you're not going to have this 30-year loan for more than 6 years. A 30-year mortgage is just a financial instrument that allows you to amortize the payments over 30 years to make the payments lower and fixed and safe. But by no means are they intended to be held for 30 years. So I think some people have the goal of having their house paid off. And I think if you're funding your investment accounts and your 401k and you can build that out, awesome. There's nothing wrong with that. But I see too many people trying to really sacrifice to an unhealthy degree and direct all of it to their house. And I feel like there's a balance, and I feel like that's the kind of thing that we need to look at to see, well, what's the right allocation for that specific person?
Well, Cross Country does take that consultative approach to this lending process. If you want to get that started, get your free 15-minute mortgage and loan consultation, you can do so by calling 484 352-4151 or log on smartmortgageshow.com. You can also hop into the application process right away by hitting the Get Started Now button. But if you want to talk about these things and have these first discussions about these different options and what might be best suited for you and let Bill get a better idea of your picture and your full financial picture, you can do so by calling 484-352-4151. All right, Bill, good question. I know one that you probably get asked quite a bit, so I'm glad we could work it out today. So thanks for the time.
Absolutely. My pleasure.
Please hit subscribe on the YouTube channel if you haven't already. And if you haven't joined us on YouTube, we'd love to see you over there as well. But wherever you listen, thanks for doing so. We'll talk to you again soon. This program is for informational purposes only. Please consult a qualified professional before taking any action. Bill Litton is a loan advisor and regional president with Cross Country Mortgage, NMLS number 147060.